and things. Can we just begin our meeting, please, with our normal karakia, which is at the beginning of your...
The live stream's working.
Live stream's working, that's good. At the beginning of your agendas. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina kūtai, kia mā tara tara ki tai, hei a ki ana te atakura, hei teo, hei hoka, hei huhu, ki hei mārua. Thank you. Thank you for attending this morning. We do have a few apologies, and I'm not going to read them all out, but just move that those apologies be accepted. Thank you. And we've got no late items, declarations of interest, just confirmation of the minutes that were held of our last meeting on the 21st of May 2025. Can someone just confirm the true and correct record for me? Thank you, Lee. I'll move those. Thank you. Don't think there was anything there that we needed to bring up today. So let's just move to our network report. And as you can see, there is a number of different forums that feed into this report, and I'll just pass to Mark first, and maybe he wants to introduce those, but then if there are any commentary from any of the representatives of these forums, I'd be happy to receive it. Thanks, man. Sorry? Oh, move the report.
Thank you, Your Worship, and for you. Not much from me in terms of Community Wellbeing Network report. We have representatives or members of council officers to speak to each network or working group. So we will start with access and inclusion. I'm also mindful we've got, I believe, a couple of slides per presentation as well that will appear above. But I'll start with access and inclusion.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Catherine McAuliffe. I work for MASH Trust and represent the Access and Inclusion Forum. So over the last couple of months, we're working on two of the main priorities. Priority one is giving voice to marginalised communities. So that's around not only making sure that the marginalised communities' voices are heard, but also that they are included in the matters that affect them. So with that, we have delivered 3 workshops across the community, living in full colour, unconscious bias, and different brains, bright futures. In advocacy, Sharon Williams made a submission on behalf of the Access and Inclusion to Horizons Council, and it focused on the rural, low income and communities and people with disabilities. And then over to slide 2. And then priority 2 was around workforce diversity and inclusion. With that, we hosted 2 presentations from key contributors. First one being Andrew Reid from the Horowhenua Company Limited. Although they're not willing to be obviously the lead agency, they're willing to be an enabling agency to help us raise awareness for the capacity amongst employers, obviously teach employers around diversity and inclusion culture, and also urge anyone that has some ideas around how we can do this in the Horowhenua to come forward and have a chat with him. And second, sorry, the slides have been changed. Is there another slide, Anna? Okay. Nope, okay, go back. And then there was also the presentation done from MSD, where they spoke about their place in the industry in regards to resources and funding opportunities and available for employers to support the diverse community into work. Thank you.
Our next network to report, Mebuni, is the Youth Services Network.
Sorry. Kia ora. Koe au, ko korahaupo tōku waka, ko aurui tōku awa, ko ranguni tōku moana, ko Waimanoni tōku marae, ko te rangiani wainua tōku maunga, ko Ngāi Tākatoa tōku iwi, ko Kuntapo Moeke Lawhao tōku ingoa. So me and Sharon, we're the Youth Network representatives. Through the past weeks, we've had some good hui, just in what's happening for our rangatai in Horowhenua. So if you see on our first slide, we have youth mental health issues are becoming more complex and prevalent. So we've noticed an increase in mental health issues, and our youth do not know how or where to reach out. So we have amazing services in the Horowhenua like YOS, Whāora Trust, Youthline, and many more. But not also we're not also forgetting that we have sports teams, youth groups, and our youth space down at Te Tākiritanga o Korohoipo. So a lot of discussions has happened around the mental health issues in Horowhenua for our rangatai. And one of them is understanding the extent of what needs to be done for our rangatai and how we can work together as a community. On this topic, on the 22nd of May, we met at the youth space with our network hui, and we asked, why do police only spend a few hours when it's a mental health call out? And it's because they can't spend majority of their time answering to their call because they have others to tend to as well. This is the same with our other services. So we're noticing that there's not much funding to hold the capacity where we need to better our community. So we're just needing to collaborate to fill those gaps for the meantime. Then if we go to our next one, neurodiversity and our LGBTQ communities continue to face stigma and marginalisation. So it was cool to see Cody present the Living in Full Colour workshop and go into schools to help our rangatai. Also, he had held the unconscious bias, which I heard a lot of good feedback on. We also had the Pride Month not so long ago that supported our LGBTQ community. I'm sure a lot of us had done some good and great things to Awhi and Tautoko our whānau and our rangatai for that month. Our next one is sluggish. Economic conditions are making it harder for our young people to get their first jobs. So we know that the economy is at a deficit. We know when the economy is at a deficit, our youth are the first and the hardest to get impacted when it comes to that, and then also dealt with in a negative manner. Also, I've noticed a lot of youth are not really getting into doing their CVs and knowing how to reach out. Even with a lot of it being done online, the applications, they're not even knowing how to present their CV, how to introduce themselves. So we've been working around how do we help our rangatai in that sense as well. NEETs numbers have continued to grow. It's just I think that just kind of answers it with all those other ones. We've seen a lot of our rangatai just not really motivated, not really wanting to get out. So it's kind of how do we as a community draw them into it's kind of coming from that strength-based approach, where it comes that they want to, rather than they're kind of enforced to come outside. Vaping and smoking numbers are decreasing, but still at a high level. We are still working hard to find ways to reduce the want to vape and creating environments that encourage them to give up in a manner that makes it their choice rather than being enforced upon them. So we're finding ways how to get kids back into sports groups, back into connect groups, back into there's been a lot of events that have been held in Horowhenua. We have annuals coming up, so how do we get rangatai there so that they're motivated to want to be a part of something? So then in those things there's those healthy kind of boundary rules that you can't vape in the premises. So they're slowly habit stacking into a point where eventually that they'll give it all up together. Did you want to speak into this now? The concerns.
Oh yeah, just to mention about the NEET numbers, and Emma, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's gone down 0.5% since the last dashboard report, but still, if we look back to December 24, it's still 1% up though. So a slight blip, but in general, it's still up. And ongoing concerns still, and I kind of feel we haven't quite got this resolved yet, that the increase with the meth and cocaine in the water testing, we know it made national news. What we don't know if it's an increase of the same users using more, or if it's an increase of more people using. And it's quite hard to quantify that, but it'd be really interesting to see when the next water testing comes through, if that's a trend or if it's a blip and it's gone back down. So, but in the youth service network, obviously it's a concern if that's more youth using. Which we don't know. So and youth offending, prosecutions decreasing, violent offending has arisen. Negative media youth narratives continue to be an issue, but that's a nationwide thing anyway. And a couple of things actually, just the cactus thing as well, just to mention that there's planning underway for the cactus program, which is progressing. So that'll really help those youth that have got those specific needs. And also then planning, which follows up from the Code of Ethics supervision workshop that we had earlier in the year, which was, I think it was booked. It was very well attended, really great quality community capacity building. We're looking at bringing more capacity building around the supervision and support for youth workers in the district, because that was highlighted as an issue on the back of that other training.
Yeah, it's just on the vaping and smoking numbers. Whāora Trust have been doing like a lot of great work. Like, you kind of we run an Akuma program, and we try and run a program like that kind of supports kids into giving it up. But they say, Whāora Trust has already been in here. They've run multiple programs. Like it's cool to see that they've made that presence. Then also in the youth offending prosecutions decreasing. We spoke about that on the 22nd of May when Sergeant Bernie come in and spoken to that as well, which was really good. Was stating that a lot of people can see that they are youth offending, but try to post it on Facebook rather than actually putting reports through. But that's cool to see that also Mupoko and Raukawa are making a strong presence, and I know Raukawa is running this PT program. So they get in and help as a preventative. So taking the kids to workplace gym, just getting them busy. Stacey and the other youth mentors at Mupoko are doing a lot of great work mentoring our rangatai and finding them career pathways, getting their license done. And then also at Te Punawhai Mātauranga, we run a mentoring program that works with a lot of our YJ clients and just working with them just finding their career pathways in that too. But if we could go to our next slide. So these are just photos of some of the work, the great work that we've done. There's Stacey there with us Korowai. We had our youth network at Mupoko, and they kind of gave us a really in-depth understanding of who they are and what their service brings to the community. We got to do a lot of practical things there too, and it was really fun. That's the Living in Full Colour that was presented by Cody. He done some great mahi for our LGBTQ community. And then on the far right, we have that's Matt Renata that brought the awesome training for us youth workers that actually really showed a lot of wisdom and ethical understanding of how to better our practice for our rangatai in the community. And then that also with the rangatai that are eating, that's the burger bar that the council had put out for our rangatai during the holidays. As Gavin at one of our youth network hoies had said that if we can be able to provide a service that provides our kids with food, it will prevent them from wanting to go to the local dairies or places and then go and take it for themselves. So it actually really did make a good presence in the community, bettering the community, and then installing hope for our rangatai as well, that we're actually wanting to help them. But other than that, is there anything else you wanted to say? But yeah, that's the youth network.
Thank you, guys. That was really good. Cheers. Just any questions first? I should have asked. Any questions of Sharon or Quinn? Yeah.
In regards to the prevalence of mental health with our rangatahi. So what is that? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Or
Yeah, so it could be depression, anxiety, trauma, like and really coming like as youth workers and the network is just coming to understand how to support them. A lot of times we can bring services that kind of surfacely try and total call them, but it's understanding what is the depths of them, like understanding the fact that them acting up at class, but not understanding what's going on at home. So kind of what's going in their mind, like just to really unpack it, so that we're also helping them, but helping them be better for the future as well, so they don't carry that momoi on. Like, if you understand.
So, what do you two need from us here to help you to address that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing is that funding is always an issue for mental health services across the whole community, and for youth mental health services as being a part of that. I think there's a general recognition anyway across the whole country that the levels of anxiety post-COVID really rose in a way that we hadn't seen previously as well. So in terms of network help, I mean, one of the things this network does very well is advocating spaces.
Yeah.
So if we're advocating in spaces, in the funding spaces as well, and supporting those like Lokara and Mōpuku who are actually, what's your name? Te Puna Wai Matarangi, that are actually in there doing that mentoring as well. And I know, so Quentin and I have discussed this in the past, that whole, fence at the top of the cliff, ambulance at the bottom, we need both. So if we can put more funding into the fence at the top of the cliff stuff, the sports, the youth groups, the connection, that work before it gets to the point where they're falling off the cliff and then you're doing all that remedial post-trauma work, that's good. But, funding's really, really tight everywhere at the moment. So advocacy, I guess, is my answer. I don't know what yours is, Quentin, but yeah.
And that's the challenge, Nev. What can we do in terms of that? And that's why this actually coming together of all the different agencies and different people that represent different groups can hear people like Sharon and Quentin and understand some of the issues that they're facing, hopefully take that back and inform some of the decisions that they make or in their spaces about what they can do. Council has a role to play, but it's more of that facilitator, enabler, and coordinating advocacy role, rather than sort of, as the challenge is to local government, is a core business, and those sorts of questions being asked of us, we've got to make sure that we are trying our best to support and enable these people to do their job.
Could that be in the form of a letter or something of support?
Well, all sorts of things, yeah, definitely.
And I think that's a really good point you made, Bernie, around council support, because this year, with Matt Lanata coming and how supportive that was for the youth workers there in terms of that capacity building, and on the back of that, the whole supervision and the capacity building like that is a huge kind of catalyst for helping people doing the cold-face work and helping them be really well supported. Like, I'm a huge advocate of people having really good quality, decent supervision so that they don't get burnt out, so that they enjoy the job, so that they can debrief the trauma that they've worked with that day, not just with online management, but with supervisors too. And that's, what we're looking at, the council are looking at bringing next. So that, that's a great win. Yeah.
I just want to ask one more question, and that's around the cultural supervision for our kaimahi here. Has that been set up? Or is that something that you guys are looking at doing for our kaimahi, our youth workers on the ground? There are some people that are here that will be able to fit in, they can fill that role.
Through you, Worship. I think that's part of the piece that we can look at as part of our community capacity and capability building program. So at the moment, we've got one provider that we currently are using. However, I think there's absolute appetite to look at what that cultural supervision looks like and those providers. I think it's a really good suggestion. We can take that away and take it offline.
Thanks, guys. Did you have a question, Kylie? Sorry.
Sorry.
You're right. No, go for it. Yeah.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you so much for your presentation. Really cool to hear. I work for Sport Manawatu and Sport Whenua. I just wanted to hear a little bit from you guys. Have you seen anything on the ground? So you talked about being active, getting kids into things, joining teams as one of those key things to make sure that's happening. Are there some barriers that you're seeing on the ground that we need to be a lot more cognizant of when we're supporting our people into these spaces?
I mean, for me and my experience, volunteers.
Yeah.
For me and Shannon, that is my number one barrier. And I'll just give the example of Shannon Athletics that was on the brink of folding last year. And I just literally stepped in to keep it going. Like, it's not my kaupapa. I just want to make sure it doesn't fold because it's been going for decades. We had 75 children register. You don't want to lose that momentum. You want to keep that going. So, but it's about having volunteers to help in that space. I don't think necessarily like funding. I know there's a lot of funding that ad hoc sausages or to go to global games, that kind of thing happens around community. And if you've got an impoverished community, that's a challenge. But it seems to get by. So for me, it's about actually having the people that will volunteer in that spaces, be coaches, be referees without being intimidated, all those kind of things, you know? Yeah, but that's just my personal perspective on it.
Yeah, my one especially in that, like, you know, in the youth work and even in the community side is that not every child not every tangata is going to be able to fit into the teams of the school or the teams of the reps team and stuff like that, because the hardest part is trying to fit in, and a lot of them do fit into other groups and stuff like that. And the one hardest part is yes, it is hard to find volunteers, but it is hard to get behind those that are volunteering. You know, like that are trying to start a new kaupapa, that are starting from the ground and trying to get up. Like, say, for example, like I run a youth group as well, and there's these other people that do too. And you know, at Owen we have 45 rangatai, and we got like a group of chairs and one rugby ball and one soccer ball, and trying to make do with that kind of thing. Like, you know, for example, I know a few of these other people in the community, we out of our own pocket sow a seed and to take the boys down to the pools on a Sunday to teach them how to do recovery, because these boys are wanting to become a professional rugby player, but at the moment they're holding the standard of a good local rugby player, but then when you put in recovery plans, then that's what determines you between a good rugby player and a professional rugby player. But you know, those are like the barriers that a lot of us face that are trying to work from the ground and trying to build something, like build a career for them. But yeah, there are like the rugby boots and stuff like that. But I think these rangatai are pretty good, just bare feet on the field and stuff at the moment, eh? But yeah.
It's how we grow up, couldn't it?
But Kylie, just on the back of that, I do want to say, you know, so for Shannon, we got that big funding from Sport Manawatu last year. So it's taken that barrier away for us.
Yeah.
So it'll be good to see across the whole district, you know, where are the pockets where that barrier is still there. Kia ora.
I did have that question, Collie. I hope, you know, there's a connection between, which is great to hear. Excellent. Yeah. Because I think supporting the volunteers, it's all very well struggling to get volunteers, but once they're there, being able to support them in terms of managing what they're doing, because a lot of them are just doing it out of, you know, care for the rangatahi and things like that. They're not doing it because they're great athletes or anything. So, you know, any support you can give them obviously would be very valuable. Thank you, team. That's great. All right. Laura, are you going to do the youth? Good luck with the Cactus program, by the way, too. Good to see you trying to re-establish that.
Kia ora koutou, my name is Laura Fisher and I am the Community Development Coordinator and the Youth Voice Facilitator here at Whenua District Council. I updated you last CWC meeting and I'm excited to share the things that Youth Voice have been up to lately. So first of all, you'll see a cheeky newspaper clipping, ×2, might I add. First of all, our Youth Voice members presented their submission to the Horizons Regional Council about their views for the public transport here in Whenua. It was a fantastic chance for them to get out and actually speak about what they think matters to them at their age and looking forward to the future. So, good news, Levin is now set to have its own dedicated public transport routes as part of the Horizons annual plan for 25-26. We then had the Burger Blast event, and 3 of our members rolled up their sleeves and got stuck in. Not only did they get the Youth Voice name out in the community, but they also chatted with people and encouraged them to fill out our survey, which was not an easy task when there's the smell of burgers in the air. On the next slide, our social media front, the Youth Voice Brain Teaser post basically broke the internet, reaching nearly 4.7 million people. It got so many likes, shares and new followers that we half expected Instagram and TikTok to send us a thank you card. Seriously though, 8.5 million views later, who knew that brain teasers could wrangle up that much engagement? So I'm not sure if that's going to actually play, but can anyone guess what that first brain teaser is?
Do you want to play it?
Oh, can you play it?
$1 million. What?
No.
1 in a million?
Yes.
No. No.
Tuna fish.
Yes.
What did you say? First date?
Yeah.
Tuna fish.
Pie. Apple. Eating pie. Eating pie?
Oh, I have it. Apple o'clock. What? Apple pie.
Yay.
Wait, do I have
Yes, it was.
What?
Yeah, so that's just a little snippet of the video. It was actually 3 minutes and something seconds, so the amount of time that has been viewed is over 10 years. So, yeah, just from a 3-minute video, pretty crazy. Our next slide.
1 million.
Oh, we're just going to hear 1 million for the next however long. So alongside that, the Youth Empowerment Fund is now open, and we've had the first round of the 25-26 applications. They've just been decided by the committee. But we had 2 Youth Voice members right there at the table as youth advisors to give their honest feedback and answering any questions that the committee had, and this was to make sure that the Youth Voice was truly represented in the decision making as well. So we, when I say we, I worked alongside them, so we are super excited to keep making a difference together and having fun along the way. Got a little saying here, fun isn't just the icing on the cake, it's the reason you stick around long enough to eat the cake in the first place. So I would like to open it up for any questions that you may have. What's next? All good. Namahe.
Thanks, Laura. I just want to echo those words around the youth empowerment and the funding application process that we went through. It was great to have not only the advisors there, but the way the kids presented their projects was really cool, and I think probably a forerunner of things to come, I would suggest, which is good to see. Okay, who's next? Mark? Sharon.
Yeah, just on behalf of older persons, only had 1 meeting in period to report back on, but in terms of that broader health and well-being, looking at building on an understanding of usage and barriers for older people to ring the 0800 for takuta to access health advice, and then also a medical handy booklet and a household repair workshop was facilitated by Habitat for Humanities. I think a small group, was that in different locations, or am I getting confused with something else now? It was in different locations as well, so that was the access barrier was broken down too, which is good. In terms of the addressing isolation and building social connection, so improved collaboration between the local age concerned providers, and we know we've got the expo coming up on the 10th of October, Age on the Go Expo annual event as well. The library team have continued to provide a great service addressing older people's low digital literacy. And again, I think it's definitely been in Shannon. I think that might be across the district as well, not just in Levin. But yeah, the council, DIA and ECCT funding workshop was well attended and appreciated by the local providers. And there's a plan in place, which actually you'll see in your agenda around the concerns around the lack of the bus service and increased isolation. But we've got that parallel process with Horizons Regional Council, District Council and Community. Now those who are set up and are rolling now in terms of the rollout of what that might look like with Horizons going forward in the future. My understanding from the last meeting was they were looking at the connecting district wide as opposed to, and then second phase looking at Levin. So I don't know if there's anyone that was from attending the last meeting.
Consultation on that will be going out
Okay.
probably before the end of the year, as soon as possible, so that we can actually get it into the Horizons, planning for next year. But yes, there's some good progress being made on that, but it's going to just take a bit of time.
Yeah, definitely, and the funding as well. There's huge issues, but at least it's happening. But I understand that the network are going to write a submission to the regional council looking for support and action with regard to transport as well. Facilitating the Powering Up workshops as well. Tips, tricks to stay safe at home, out about online, and they're going to rerun that again in October at the Cosy Club. And for ageing in place and encouraging life planning, doing a funding application to the Office for Seniors to design 3 virtual workshops. Anything else that I might have missed? There's just some of the posters for some of the ones that have been out and about in different places in the community, some of the events that have been held. I actually had some really good feedback, actually. I didn't attend, but the community fund writing workshop as well. Oh, no, not that one. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking about another workshop. You did the literacy one. Sorry. That one, I had really good feedback about that one.
Thank you. All right. Anna, Clint, you're going to talk to us about the Education Forum.
Kia ora, everyone. As Grant isn't here, I'm just going to mention that Education Horowhenua has met a couple of times over this period, and one of the areas that we're really trying to do a deep dive on is attendance. And if you look at in your handouts, you will see that the attendance, albeit it's slightly improving, it's still a significant concern with only 55.8% of students attending regularly. And one of the bigger concerns is that we're now starting to see that in primary school, similar sort of trends are happening. And so if that is happening, then we can only predict this is going to get worse moving forward. So we're really interested to look at what do we need to do to address this, because it's not a simple fix, and we've had a lot of conversations about all the various drivers that contribute to this. So one of the things we're thinking about is putting together a joint application to the Social Agency Investment Fund, but whether or not council leads that or somebody else does, because it requires a whole of community response to manage what has been the result of multi-generational disengagement from our education system.
Yeah, I guess I've this committee's heard before in relation to the Te Tomokunga project, and yeah, that's looking and trying to reduce our standard rate and addressing some of the trauma issues around wraparound service. But where we've quickly kind of landed is that if you look at this education dashboard and the trends and where the impacts are, it's a far wider need than just a selected group of children that need that support. So that's why we feel that funding is an issue. The multi-agency response needs to be in there with agencies working collaboratively together. And so we very much did lean on looking at exploring the option of approaching the funding mechanism to try and facilitate that moving forward. So we did hear back from Grant. So Grant's come back this term. He shared a few of the insights from his time on sabbatical last term, including some time spent in the UK, where he was particularly looking into seeking insights into trauma practice within education. And he spoke very much around the different funding models and support mechanisms that they have within the education system to specifically address trauma, from trauma-informed practice at an educational level, in terms of the educators being significantly better than what we currently have within the education system here in New Zealand. He spoke about the resourcing and funding of those services within each schools. He shared a specific example that was very similar to Te Tamakonga's idea, being that this was a school in North London where there's 78 students, and these are 78 students who have all been excluded multiple times from other schools in London. And so that kind of aligned quite nicely with where that project sits. Obviously, if you look at the data, the data points tell us that it doesn't feel like it's getting better. Our needs are still higher than we would like them to be. Our stand downs are almost at a 20-year high. You've got to go back to 2023, I think it was, and we're well on track this year in terms of stand downs to exceed that high point of 372 stand downs within our schools. So, that was essentially the conversation that came out of yesterday morning's Horowhenua education.
And we've just had a bit of a conversation with Grant next door. It's the size of the problem that is getting increasingly difficult to deal with lack of resources that which he explained in terms of they've given every school $24,000, but it's only going to scratch the surface in terms of what it can do and how difficult it is for schools to manage this type of trauma. And the interesting comment he made about how teachers of the old days were subject driven and engagement and relationship driven down that way. Now it's reversed. They've got to be relationship and engagement driven rather than subject driven, which is a pretty sad reflection on the way that things have changed in our society. But yeah, look, it's an ongoing, I wouldn't call it a battle, but it's a struggle and a challenge, obviously, and that's where hopefully we can play again that advocacy and support role in terms of trying to make a difference in that space. But it is going to be a challenge and a little overwhelming for the education sector now, which is only probably going to cause issues later down the track for other agencies like MSD and OT and police and corrections and things like that. Catherine, did you want to make a comment? Did you? Yeah.
Just wondering from a disability space. I pushed too many buttons. Okay. We're actually seeing a lot of an increase in referrals for children coming to disability services. So we're actually receiving referrals for kind of age 8 all the way through to 15. And that's for children that can't go to school, have been stood down because of disability reasons, so ADHD, autism, behavioural challenges. So wondering if you have any stats or consideration into that space as well.
Yeah, simple answer is no.
And through your worship, but what we could take that offline, and if that stat's available, we can include that in future education dashboards. I would imagine that that's quite a unique stat that we would have to go and ask the ministry for, whereas the stats that you typically see on your dashboards are what we pull off websites or public data. But that we can definitely take that feedback offline and see what we can bring back next time.
What would be useful, I guess, to understand is in terms of those stand downs or exclusions, are they behaviour related, or are they the school cannot provide the appropriate level of funding or support for that student in school? Because I think that
It's an overlap.
Can we add bullying into that as well? I see
Some of those stand down types of things you'll see. Reference to violence, I suppose, is what often where did I see that?
Yeah, through you. Yes, violence tends to be the principal reason for the stand downs, which links to, and it's a great concern that all the bullying programs that used to happen in schools no longer have funding and they're not run. And so that would be a really interesting addition to any future investment that we might have in the city to get some of those programs set up again.
I think on the other end of the bullying as well, although there be the bullier, so it's the person that gets bullied as well, they'll come down and they'll show up on the attendance or not being at school.
Yeah.
So that'll come into that stat. So if we can try and put something around that, that'd be great.
Yeah, and for your worship, we'll take it offline. We've noted that down, see what we can find out.
All right, thank you. So we now sorry,
Also, Ben,
Sharon.
can I just ask a question about the statistical significance of the percentage of school leavers with NCA level 3 or above? Like, is this similar to last year? I'm looking at the number there being quite different from Manawatu and the rest of the country. We're definitely very low. It looks statistically significant to me. And I'm just wondering if that's the same as last year or if that's altered.
Through you, it's going down. Like, it is a real concern that we seem to be having students stay at school for their year 13, but they are not achieving. So if you look at it, our level 3 achievement is very poor. That being said, across the country, 20% of young people are leaving school with no qualifications at all. But it does appear that there, if you look at that data, our percentage would be higher.
All right. Emma is going to talk about refugees.
Yes, so as part of my role here at Council, I look after the Welcoming Communities program and also represent Council on the Horowhenua Former Refugee Support Committee. And through our Welcoming Communities program, we were able to send a group of our former refugees to participate in World Refugee Day in Palmerston North, where they performed their dance routine. And then during July, we celebrated both Colombian and Venezuelan Independence Day with flag raising ceremonies for each culture, and then a vibrant community event held at United Church, which brought both of them together. It was a fantastic event, and they very much wanted to put this on for the community as well, to thank them for the welcome that they've had to Horowhenua. And then, as part of our Meaningful Refugee Participation program, we've recently recruited 2 volunteers from the former refugee community to become local election ambassadors. So, and they held their first information session last Friday to about 30 former refugees. So, their main role is to build trust around the voting process, due to the fact that voting in their homeland was not a great experience. So we are working with them to hold their next session and just ticking off little bite-sized little projects that they want to do to help to inform the community around voting. And this will be the first time that many of them have voted. I think in the last national election we only had 5 refugees that were eligible to vote. They have to be here for a year before they're eligible to vote. And so now we have quite a large number of the community that will be able to vote this year. And also we've recently received our quota for this next financial year. So we currently have 210 former refugees that live here in Horowhenua, and we have been allocated a further 80 in this coming year. We will receive those in 7 intakes. So yeah, that will bring us up to nearly 300, which is great.
Thanks, Emma.
Emma, I just have a question. How well attended from the wider community was the Colombian Independence Day celebrations, and what was the general vibe?
Yeah, it was very well attended by the public, and yeah, I spent most of my time in the kitchen explaining the different types of food that the community were trying and buying. So yeah, it was great to be able to do that for them and bridge that communication gap.
Look, I think, yeah, well done on that initiative and supporting it and bringing it alive, because I think that's really quite impactful to open up that culture to the wider community so that they can understand that culture. I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough to have a few Saturday night experiences at the football club where the Colombians come in and take over, and it's very upbeat and vibrant and real fun. So
they really love Horowhenua. It's interesting to note that out of all of the other councils that are part of the Welcoming Communities program and are accepting former refugees, Horowhenua has the highest retention rate out of all of those councils. I think we've only lost like 10 refugees to go and join family in other regions. But a big part of the reason why they stay is the welcome that they receive from not only Upuku with our house blessings, but the wider community accepting them and welcoming them.
We're going to need a bigger hall next year, that's for sure. Yeah, it was a bit packed, but it was a great afternoon and noisy, colourful, and food was great. It was well done, Emma. It was. They certainly were a bit slower the next morning at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning to raise the flag out here, I can assure you. They were on time, yes, yeah. No, it's good to see. Okay, so we're now talking a few collectives, and we've got the Housing and the Manakai Collective. Who are you, Anna?
Yeah.
Right.
Arapamai, I'm talking on behalf of Rakesh, who's with the Ngāti Raukawa Housing, who's leading this. So over the last couple of months, what we've been focusing on is really mapping social housing provision in the Horowhenua, just really trying to understand how big that is, like what are the issues, who are providing with, and we've been going around visiting various places. For example, the Hinimoa complex, which is amazing. We have just signed off our draft strategy and action plan. One of the real opportunities is that Habitat to Humanity is keen to come down and partner with, in particular, iwi, to look at doing housing developments down here. So very cool that the CE now has got a meeting set up both with Ngāti Raukawa and also Mawupuku. which will be happening in the next few weeks. We're developing a better understanding in terms of compliance rates with the Healthy Homes legislation. It would seem that people who are renting out properties and going through tenancy tribunal, there's about 98% compliance, but we've got a whole lot of people renting houses not formally and informally, and many of those houses are far from being compliant, and so there's some opportunity to do some work in that group. We're also starting to build a real understanding of lived experience of housing hardship, and it would appear that overcrowding and couch surfing is very prevalent. So the housing problem, while we don't have people sleeping on the streets, we still have quite a significant housing problem here in Whenua. And the other issue is very old houses that need quite a bit of work to upspec them. One of the things I'd hoped that Nathan the CEO was going to be here today, because they now offer a interest-free $20,000 housing repair loan, which people can apply for. And pending they work alongside them, they're really keen to help us. Their viewers have been helping have a high presence everywhere else except the Hort of Whenua, and so they really want to make this a bit of a target area moving forward.
Thanks, Anna.
So,
Matt, are you going to talk to us about the Kai Collective? Sorry, did you have...
No. Oh.
Oh, you're still going. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah.
And we are in progress of creating some partnership.
Cool. Thanks. Sorry about that. Matt.
Atamari team. Quite a few updates to deliver today. I'm really excited about that. Our last meeting was just around about what we're doing to get up and running. So I'm here to talk about some of those, some of the outcomes that we've received in such a small time. Thanks to Anna and Emma for pouring in their Modi into this project. Really, really excited to be working along them both. So just publicly, thanks so much. So we've finalised our strategy, our action plan, and our value proposition. Pretty ambitious. Three main parts we're targeting: food poverty, food insecurity, and food sovereignty. The benefit of taking such a wide view is it's allowed us to take that holistic approach. So working with I was listening to what Quinton had to say, some of his initiatives, there would be scope for us to support some of the youth, especially if they're doing development in rugby, so doing some Kai packs for them. But I'll talk about that as we go through the presentation. But one of the key things that's come through is, one, our food banks are keen to kind of redefine need. When you think food bank, you typically think more on the extreme side of need, but there's conversations around need from a knowledge perspective, so rolling out workshops, how to get them going in people's backyards. There's also a time need as well, so those who are working parents, working 9 to 5, there's an opportunity for us to help support in that space. So identifying, as an example, we're going to be talking to businesses, any of the employees that might be nearing that at-risk status, can we get in there early to support them and keep them productive in the workplace? So that's just some of the conversations that we're having at our strategic meetings. It's evolved into a Kai system, looking at Hort of Whenua, what are we producing from a system perspective. So if we were to put a ring around Hort of Whenua, and if we were cut off from our other regions, are we in place to support ourselves? For the most part, yes, but there are some glaring holes. So, for example, we produce a lot of vegetables. We only have about 3 or 4 fruit orchards, and they're processed into olive oils and ciders. So, what can we do to at a local level to supplement that? We've just been donated 10 apple trees that will most likely make their way into some of the schools to be planted. Also taking a different view, when you think of Kai from a reporting perspective, you think of, okay, here's the land, how much is it producing from a financial perspective? I'm seeing a lot of things around the world, they're starting to look at assigning a nutritional value. So how much land outputs on a nutritional unit. So that's some of the other things we're exploring as well. Thanks to Maggie and Neil for their support in terms of funding this pilot. This is a 12-month pilot. And now the focus is to build out our reach and size of the network. Started to engage our growers. Jen Oise, who I will talk to in a moment. Serena from the waste minimisation, she's done some scoping for us around what materials we can use under waste minimisation, and they've stepped up for us and they've provided some support. We're beginning conversations with Woodhaven, and by chance I got a one-on-one with executive member of Zespri, and he's pretty keen to give us some support as well. The other thing, just because of that, I've got a tech background, so luckily I didn't expect these conversations to advance so quickly. This is with our growers. So I've managed to cobble together a website and a logo as well as an online tool for us to collaborate. So we've got Shannon, we've got Foxton. So we'll use this tool Notion to share and develop towards the similar metrics. But part of that website build was a logo. That's one suggested logo that I've developed. That, I guess, single word that would describe that is abundance. Being a food bowl for New Zealand, which actually a lot of that goes out. We're trying to create that abundance at a local level, working with the schools, as I was saying, using Te Ao Māori principles, hence the woven kete. But I'll just show you, it's not on there, but probably won't be able to see it. But that's the other logo there. I'll just do a quick little show. So that would be underpinned by manaakitanga, collaboration. Obviously, it shows our roots. Got the Tararuas there. You've got our Oho River there in the background. You've got our lake there featured underneath. But that one would probably be our chosen logo, given the feedback we had from others in the network. Next slide. Thank you. So we've got a steering group. The actions that I undertake with the network are guided by the steering group. So we had our second meeting just on Monday. Burger Blast were also involved in that. We've had 2 people already speak to that. It was really, really good privilege to work with everyone in that aspect. Coming back to some of the strategy, one of the things that kind of centers really well with us is building. Kai has a really unique proposition in that we can do a lot of structural building. So, for example, there is a Aged on the Go event coming up. We're going to cater for that. So that's an opportunity for us to grow some capability within the community. So we've been talking to some of the schools. One or two want to come along, help in the customer service space. The refugee network, if they would like to have a specialised item on the menu for their cultural foods. Having seen and tasted a lot of their kai, I would be looking forward to that. The other thing of note was just linking with the Hurawhenua Breakfast Club. That's run by the college. They did a really cool presentation. I personally missed out on it, but from what I was hearing from Emma and from Anna, they've got a CEO. They've got what was the other position?
HR manager.
An HR manager. So they're really, really taking this to the next level in terms of, they've got a business plan. They're reaching out to various other food businesses to get their support. They currently want to run it once a month with the view that they can run this more upon receiving that extra support. But yeah, in totality, that's we realise that this is probably a huge project, so we've got 12 months to really get some good outcomes. What I forgot to mention, and I've had Tauira, and he's hiding in the background over there. Part of us was to find who's doing really cool initiatives within the network. Tauira is one example. He's starting his, if you look just over to your left there, planter box, waste minimisation. So Genoese, we went and had a visit with them. They were more than happy to supply some high quality pellets that we could make into pellets. There's also presented a commercial opportunity. They've looked at growing locally. They've tried to R&D, but for whichever reason they've decided not to go ahead with it. So we're in conversation to develop something fit for commercial use. They currently import from the Waikato, but they're watching with pretty keen interest to see if we can get something commercial out up and running for them. So that's a really cool get. So thank you for Tauira. And there's also a Manakai specialist. She is the adult at Te Kōkiri. She runs a class there. So we're mobilising the students there, or the adult students, to help support Manakai as we roll that out. Part of the big reason why Manakai fall over is the lack. You need resourcing, human resourcing, people on the ground. So we're mobilising that class to perhaps fill that need when we go to roll them out further. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, great progress. Congratulations, and look forward to further seeing the developments that you're into, and I'm sure there will be some really good outcomes coming from all that work that you're doing. Thank you.
I did actually miss 2 points actually. Tauira provides that at no cost to the community, so they've gifted one, or he's gifted one to the council. I understand you're going to get a garden up and running on the roof.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. And the other key point, which excuse me for missing this, we launched on the 22nd of September. Woodhaven are hosting the event, and thanks to Anna's work previously, she's managed to secure Deborah Manning. So she is extremely active in this space. She does a lot of food rescue. She's established a nationwide food network. She's also been named 2025 Sustainable Leader of the Year, and she's also in the New Zealand Order of Merit. So we're incredibly lucky to have Deborah join us, and all she's asked in return to is just to call her. She's paying for everything else herself. So
Well, that's cool.
I'd love to have everyone come along and be part of that.
Yeah. Look forward to the invite. Thank you. All right, let's thank you all for those. I mean, we did take a little bit of time going through that, but really good to see all the fantastic work that's being done in those various sectors and forums. Thank you. Just moving now to our community dashboard, just move that the report be received and noted. And while I don't want to highlight anything particular from the dashboard, is there any agencies that wish to comment in particular about any of the things that they may have been inputted into this? Mike, Jackie, Lee, have you got any commentary that you want to add to some of this data? No? Okay. No. Cool. All right. Are there any questions? Well, maybe I'll ask Mark first just to maybe highlight a couple of things that are in there.
Thank you, Your Worship, and for you. No, just to note, obviously the dashboard is continuing to be evolving. We continually add to it. I am going to throw to Emma, who is just going to give a very brief snapshot. We won't go through every single section, but Emma is able just to highlight some of the key parts to that, so I'll hand over to you, Your Worship.
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight just the 5 key things that I thought were stand out from the dashboard this time around. Emergency housing special needs grants. So the number of applications for this quarter was unchanged, so it remained at 9. But what was interesting was the number of grants that those applications received increased by 21, and that equated to $22,000 with an average grant amount of $1,200. So same number of people, but just the number of grants growing quite rapidly. Our local beneficiary numbers are 4,428 receiving a mate benefit, and this increased by 282 during the last quarter, which is an increase of 6.8%. It's not on the dashboard, but I did report about it in my report, and it was part of MSD's quarterly reporting, was that during June there was 538,000 hardship assistance payments, totaling $169 million. And out of that, 304,000 grants were for food alone. And this was up 4.5% from the same time in June 2024, and shows the growing number of people in New Zealand experiencing food insecurity and food poverty. So it's really great that we've been able to start the Kai Collective and hopefully bridge that gap here in Horowhenua. Under the health and wellbeing section, we provided you with data on the number of people in the community who have accessed the free health appointments through the Practice Plus service. And it's great to see a great number of people in Horowhenua accessing that service, 329. And this is mainly for people who are needing urgent appointments but can't, under Practice Plus they can access same day appointments that they can't otherwise access through their normal GP. And under the growth in population, this time we provided you data from our business and development team around the number of building and resource consents that Council has received and is working on during June. And of interest was the number of subdivision consents approved had increased by 34% compared to June 2024, which represents a growing number of property owners choosing to subdivide their land, which is going to obviously assist with our growing population as well.
Thanks, Emma. And sorry, Your Worship, I neglected to make one statement prior to that, which was for the committee to be aware that in the last dashboard at your last committee meeting in our growth data set, we gave you a figure that we were pulling from Social Investment Agency, rather than the growth figures that as an organisation, as council, we use, which is through our planning for our long-term plan, etc. So I just wanted to, whilst we can't change the dashboard and the report that you received, because we can't go and do that once it's been changed online for the accessible public one. But I just wanted to make that statement to the committee to be aware of that change in data, in case you are asked about it or you notice it yourself. Other than that, Your Worship, over to you.
Well, good. Is there any questions that anyone's got in any of those, any parts of that dashboard?
Could I just make a small addition? Our destination team were interested why our motels were filled to capacity over the last 12 months and asked me how many of these were being used by MSD clients. So I followed that up, and MSD has now confirmed that only 3 of our motels are being used for emergency housing, and currently there's only 3 families but given the current policy whereby if you have had any part to play in being homeless, you can't access emergency accommodation. There's been a significant reduction in the number of people using the houses, but an massive increase in homelessness. So currently the government is reviewing their policy. So it is possible that the usage of the motels could increase in the future.
Thank you, that's good intel. Thank you. All right. So our final report is the monitoring report, which is just basically a reflection on all the fantastic work that's been done throughout the year. And as June 25, is 1 year since we adopted this strategy. So to see so many things successfully achieved is a credit to all those that are assisting in that or supporting that work. And we just need bigger pages so that we can get it all there a lot easier. But I'll just move the acceptance of that report. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mark?
No, Your Worship, I just, as you just said, I want to congratulate the team on a very successful first year. I'll remind the committee that this is your report to essentially hold us accountable to the delivery of the community wellbeing strategy. I hope that for you, Your Worship, that you'll see that all of the activities, bar a few that are currently underway, that we committed to in our action plan have been completed. And the only other comment I'd make, Your Worship, is, when I receive these reports and review them for you, it's a real feel-good storytelling in there. And I think if you read that report, you will get a real sense of what's actually happening out in our community in terms of advancing community-led development, but holding the hands of our community on the priorities that we set out in the strategy. So that's the only comments I've made.
No questions or comments? Thank you, Mark. Look, I just want to echo about the amount of work that's been done. The fact that I think we've come a significantly long way in less than a year. We were probably a little at sea a little bit a year or so ago, and to develop the strategy and then implement a lot of the things that we talked about is fantastic. And this is, as Mark says, the last meeting for this triennium. We won't be meeting until November. There'll be a new triennium, so we'll have to probably have a little bit of a rethink and see what's going on. Not making any assumptions about who's going to be here or who's not going to be here. But yeah, look, I'm sure with the work that the team's doing in the background, we will continue, or Council will continue the great work that it's done. And so I just want to thank everybody for being part of that. We do value very much the input and the time that you give to us, and want to hope that it continues, because I think if this is the one area where we can understand some of the real dynamics of what is going on in our community, then we're a heck of a lot better off for it, and hopefully inform some of the decisions that you're making in your own spaces about what's going on and what can be done. And in saying that, we, if we can help anyway, those connections are really important between you and us, and also amongst yourselves. We want to see that continue as well. So, thank you very much. I'm not quite sure. November, don't have a date set. Okay, it'll be November. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Any final comments that anybody wants to make? Okay, let's finish our meeting with our closing karakia. Thank you. Sorry, I just need to find it. Kia whakairia te tapu, kia mai te ai te ara, kia tūriki whakatahu ai, kia tūriki whakatahu ai, huiei, tai ki ei. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the nice cool winter, and